who you hang out with is who you become. It's 100% truth. You know how many thousands of dollars of jobs we're getting just because they saw our plate? I had to let go of some people in my company because they had bad soft skills. And the reason why they had bad soft skills is because they had problems with relationships. To this day, Yelp is one of the best ROIs that we get, still to this day.
So I'm Joseph with Young and Wise Media. This is Igor Kozlov. Is it Kozlov?
Yes.
With Cool Cat Fencing, you do what, $10 million a year right now?
So we're on track to do about 12 million with Cool Cat Fence and Inline Security Fence. That's Inline Security Fence is a commercial company that does just commercial.
Gotcha.
So yeah.
I wanted to talk about, because that's actually something I'll touch on later, because I know I've heard about Inline, don't know much about it. But I want to kind of, in the beginning of this podcast, get into your kind of intro journey into why did you even go into a service-based business. I know we talked about it before. You know, you started at a fencing company, right, when you were 28?
So what happened is I was already married and I was working for Comcast. And I remember how, I realized I'm not going anywhere with Comcast. I was just running around, installing cable, internet, and I was just stuck. I was already married. I was already 28 years old, or 27 back then. I can't remember. But and I was like praying to God, like, God, help me for my future. Like, you're 28 years old. You don't want to be a cable guy at 28 years old. So I was praying, and I liked one job, physical therapist. I liked that job. I'm like, man, that's kind of cool. You know, people get injured. You go ahead and go help them, trying to get rehab, get them better, get them well. And then I found out that it takes about 7 years of education to become a physical therapist. And your pay is about $70,000 a year. And I'm like, what? No way, Jose. Ain't doing that. I'm like, scratch that. And that summer I went to my uncle in Sacramento, California, and my cousin Vadim was getting married. So my uncle says, Igor, listen, I do fences, and it doesn't take a genius to build the fences, and you can hire people. Yeah. So when he said you can hire people, that just lit a bulb in my head. I'm like, ta-da, that's it. And I came back home, and I remember how I was running cable, and I was trying to pull cable, and I'm like stuck at a job, making like $15 an hour. It was pretty embarrassing. I'm like, this is going nowhere. I just opened Craigslist, found the first fence company that was looking for work, and I went to work for Alpine Fence. I know there's Alpine Fencing in Everett, but this is the original Alpine Fence.
Oh, so you worked for Alpine Fence.
Alpine Fence.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So, and it was rough. I was making $14 an hour. My wife, as a babysitter, was making more money than me.
Oh, that hits the pride a little bit. Ego.
It was really painful. Yeah. And I remember how half a year later, I was working as a helper. I'm not gonna name that person. He's really cool. And I remember how I was acting kind of bad. I was acting with an attitude towards him. He says, Igor, you know what? I'm gonna call the office right now. We're gonna fire you. and I was thinking, you know what? I'm like, I'm basically ready to go right now on my own. But then I knew that, hey, I can't burn bridges. I can't leave on a bad note, because what you sow is what you reap. So I told him, hey, I'm sorry. I apologize. So I apologized. He's like, no problem. It's okay. So when I left on good terms. I put my 2-week notice. The boss said, Igor, you can come back anytime. What's interesting, Joseph, that about 8 years later, that person that told me that that we can call in the office and fire me actually got hired to work for me. He didn't work. I think he only worked for a couple of days. He left because it was long hours. He wasn't used to work that long. But it just shows that anything can happen in life, and always what you sow is what you reap. And I'm not saying that was negative for that guy. That guy's amazing. He's doing good. It's just interesting series of events that happen.
Yeah, you never know who the next person you're talking to. You don't know where they're going to end up. You don't know if they might end up in some place of authority. Like, you want to sow seeds of like generosity and kindness. You don't want to burn bridges, basically, because you never know what's going to happen.
Yes. And you don't know. What if you're a helper? What if someday he might be your boss? So honor people, respect people, and I really build my life based on biblical principles. For me, biblical principles are everything. I build my business, my life on the principles of the Bible.
Hmm. Can you talk a little bit more about like how you apply that to your business? Because I know there's a lot of Christian business owners out there who don't maybe know how to apply those principles to their own businesses, or maybe they just want to be reminded of what it even means.
Well, the way I see it is, I mean, for example, once we as a company, it was a year and a half ago when we started transitioning to Service Titan. Service Titan is a system, CRM system, where your whole business is very organized. And when we were transitioning to that, I had some subcontractors, and I knew that it's not going to work out with them, you know, and some employees that were stuck with their old system. And I remember I told Vitaly, I came up to him, I'm like, Vitaly, you need to open your own business. He's like, what? The system's pushing me out? I'm like, don't worry about it. I'm going to help you out. So I gifted him our company truck. I gave him all the brand new all the tools. I built his website.
Wow.
And right now he's my competitor, but he's not, because we're like 5 years ahead of him. But, you know, it's Vitaly now. His business is called, can't remember top of my head, Skillful Fence. He's not doing too bad. I think he's thinking about getting a crew or 2 crews, but he's still in the business. But nevertheless, I helped him out, you know. But if he would have stayed, he would have been just miserable, because his pay would have went down. There's so much control, because before the CRM system, everybody in my company kind of did it on their terms. Like, you can come to the shop from 8 to 11, as long as you do your job, as long as the customer's happy. I didn't do no micromanaging. It was just very just free flow. Now, with the CRM system, I'm telling you, it's hard to work for Cool Cat Fans. It's not easy. You have to be at the shop at this certain time. You have to dispatch. You can't even leave the work area unless you call the supervisor. Like, we have systems and processes in place, like, you won't believe it. So Vitaly left, and another person that was working with us, I told him, hey, you have till May to work with us. He actually left the next day. He was just, I guess he got really upset. But nevertheless, sometimes you go through things, and also here's another principle that I live by. My dad was also a subcontractor working with me. And before my dad working with me, he used to do he had his own business, stonemasonry. And in stonemasonry, he never made a lot of money. Maybe like $8,000 average a month. It's not a lot of money when you have your own business. It's not at all. So when he started working fences, he actually started making a lot more money. He was making like 15 and more per month. So because working in fences, he had a chance to buy a land and start building a house. And with this new CRM system, it was it's difficult, because you have to know technology. You have an iPad, you have to dispatch, you have to take pictures, you have to text customers. So my dad, being older, had a hard time. So I'm like, hey, Dad. So I basically retired him from business, and he's on payroll. We still bless him. He doesn't have to work. He's building his house, but we as a company still pay him. Why am I doing that? Because Bible says, honor your parents, and you will be blessed. I'm like, you know what? And also, isn't that a dream for every guy to basically retire their parents? You know. So my dad, he prays for me every single day. He's building his house. Yes. He's like, you know, praising the Lord and building the house. And I'm like, man, hallelujah. Because, you know, the Bible says that whenever you harden your heart, you fall into a problem. I basically made it more simpler the way I said it. But when you honor your parents, you know, and you have good relationship with people, you know, like, let's say if a person has bad relationship with their parents, you know, bad relationship with this person or that, and then they come to work with you, most likely you're gonna have problems with them, because it's all about relationships in life. And those people that, you know, they get bitter and like, oh, it's her fault, it's my parents, it's my wife, you know, and they come bitter, you don't want those people working for you. You want people that are happy, people that have good relationships. I mean, with their parents, with their spouse, because they're bringing their inner world with you. And if they're bitter, trust me, you're gonna feel that. I had to let go of some people in my company because they had bad soft skills. And the reason why they had bad soft skills is because they had problems with relationships. I'm telling you, it's huge. It's so those people that have good. That's why I'm big on soft skills. If you can forgive people, let go. Don't let your heart become bitter. Because in business, sometimes, oh man, I paid this guy. He didn't do this job. Man, your bitterness costing you way more than what you paid him. Let go. Move on. Bless him. Having a peace of mind, enjoying your hard work. You can't put a money value on that. You know. So I'm big on that. And you know, when you have biblical principles, you know that, hey, you know, Bible says this, you know, and you build your principles. That's why I believe that God's blessing our business. I can't say, hey, it's because I'm smart. No, it's God's blessing for sure.
God's prosperity. That's amazing. I wanna go. I love the biblical principles. I want to kind of apply it to, let's go back to your journey as an entrepreneur, right? You worked at Comcast, then you went and you talked to, what was it, your uncle about fencing, right? Got into it, yada, yada, yada. And then you had this journey of you were a helper, and then you eventually, did you level up to a foreman and then start your company?
No, brother.
Oh, okay.
After 7 months, I was still a helper.
Oh, man.
I was still a helper. And I remember how my boss, and my boss, Ron, he went to heaven. Great boss. He's like, Igor, I'm going to tell you right now, next thing, after half a year working for Alpine Fence, he says, Igor, I'm going to tell you one thing right now. Make sure you don't show too much emotions, too much happiness, because I don't want other workers to see, but I'm giving you a raise by $1. And so it went from 14 to 15, you know, and thank God, I'm thankful for that $1. But yeah, I was still a helper. And so when I left, when I was doing my first job, I didn't even know how to do it. It's embarrassing, guys. Joseph, I admit to you, it's embarrassing. After working for 7 months for a fence company, I couldn't even build a fence. It's embarrassing. Wow. So I had to call my dad. He had to come out and help me. Thank the Lord for my dad. But what does this say? That a lot of times it's not the skill of building, it's the drive. It's the ambition, it's the vision. I had a vision. I had a clear vision. I wanted to build a fence company, and I was pushing. So that was huge. I remember, like, let's go back to when I was 16 years old. I remember how we went to pick blueberries with my mom and my siblings, and I had this idea, what if I start selling them? So the funny story, I got a poster on the road, hey, blueberries, $5 per bag. And I remember how my siblings were laughing at me, like, I go, what are you doing? It's a joke, you're trying to sell blueberries? So I was just sitting selling blueberries, and people were driving on the road, and nobody just stopped by. So what happened, my mom was driving from work, and she saw me, she decided to stop and check on me. So when she stopped by, another gentleman stopped by because they saw another car stop by, you know? So I remember he bought 1 bag of blueberries for $5. Okay. That was the only money I made, and I stopped selling blueberries. But it's interesting that some of those siblings that were laughing at me, they actually worked for me. So the point is that, or even when I was in Ukraine, I remember in the 5th grade, I remember how there's some people in school who were selling these candies. They made their own candy. It was like you basically melt sugar and you pour it into these forms, and you have like this, like you make candy and you sell them. And I'm like, hey, I want to do that too. So me and my neighbor, we started doing the same thing and selling them too for a couple of days, because later we got in trouble. But I'm like, man, I had a little bit this little entrepreneur bug even from the beginning, you know?
Okay, so it came from a while ago. Yeah. And so what happened from that last fence? I want to hear more about when was it you started the company? From that 7 months of, you know, being a helper?
Yeah.
Did you, at the end of the 7 months, you're like, I'm going to start a business, or what happened?
Yes, I started a company, and I had a beat up truck. So I remember how I bought it for $3,000. It was just, it was pretty beat up truck. And Thumbtack was huge. I think people still use Thumbtack. I think beginning of Thumbtack was huge for me. It was big. But what the breakthrough for me came is when I My uncle told me that he uses Yelp. Yelp. I think people right now are finally realizing how big Yelp is on the West Coast. On the East Coast, I heard it's irrelevant. But on the West Coast, Yelp is pretty big. So I remember how I started paying $300 for advertising, and then they said, "Hey, Igor, you're locked in for a year." I was like, "What? I don't want." For me, $300 back then, Joseph, that was a lot of money. That's like almost equivalent to 30,000 for me, I think, right now. But because I was locked in and because I paid that $300 a month for advertising, I grew on Yelp. So later what happened, I became number one on Yelp on fencing. Number one. It was me, it was iPhone, and then everyone else. So right now I can see now that in fencing industry here, I can see the neighborly fencing, alpine fencing, they understood, they're finally pulling up to Yelp. Now there's way more competition in Yelp. But for me, Yelp was so big because it was this platform. I remember I had Yelp, I didn't even have a website. But because I had this lead generation, because Joseph, you know what's the most important thing when you open a business?
Getting customers?
Getting customers, getting leads. That's the number one thing is. So if you can get leads, you can hire people. So for me, what struck big was Yelp. I became number one on Yelp. I had the most reviews. People always levitate towards number one because they have the most reviews, the most pictures, it looks great. I think we're still number one. No, we are still number one. I believe in Yelp we have 255 reviews, and then the second best fence company has like 80 or something.
Oh wow.
So it's do you understand this? It's a blue, have you heard of Blue Ocean?
I have, I don't remember.
So Blue Ocean is where you dominate. It's like you and there's no one else. Red Ocean is when everybody's fighting like sharks. There's so much competition. Google is like Red Ocean. There's so much competition. Every single fence company is on Google, and it's like sharks. It's so expensive to get leads, So right now, smart companies, they're trying to find their Blue Ocean, a place where they can get customers for cheaper, more quality customers, and grow. Because it's in business, it's all about leads. If you know how to get leads, that means you can hire sales guys, you can hire people out. Because if you don't have leads, it doesn't matter how much people you hire. So that's why I consider myself not a fencing company. I'm a marketing and sales organization that happens to do fencing.
Because that's what you guys are really good at, is selling.
I would say Cool Cat Fence is really great at marketing and getting better at sales.
Okay, let's say I love that. It's funny you answered that question because my next question was like, hey, we're going to talk about customers and how to find customers. So it sounds like you answered the question before I even asked it. So I love that. I wanted to ask you, when it comes to getting customers, we have these entrepreneurs that are 1 million, 2 million in the service-based industry. They want to grow. Maybe they're in the red ocean. What do they do? Do they hire more salespeople? Do they find? I mean, what do you see as a common problem with businesses that, let's say, a service-based business that's at 1 million? What do you commonly see as their problem of getting to the next level?
Joseph, that's a great question. This is just a really good question. I believe the number one problem of these companies is they're not getting low-hanging fruit. Not all of them. Here's what the low-hanging fruit. You'd be surprised, but some of these companies that are doing 1 million or even less, they don't even have a Google My Business page, which is free. It's free. Like, are you kidding me? Having that page will bring you leads for free. Sometimes we want to just hire this company and we think they're going to bring us so much leads, but you don't even have your low-hanging fruit. You don't have that. That's stupid. You're just shooting yourself in the foot. Make sure that you have Google My Business, number one. Make sure you have a website. If you don't have a website, it's like people don't take you, as serious. It's your face. Number two, website. Number three, Google Guaranteed. Google Guaranteed is when you have this green check mark by Google that Google guarantees that if a customer hires you and you mess up, Google will pay the customer money. But Google Guarantee is powerful. It shows the customer that you have a license, that you have insurance, that you're legit. Yelp. You can get Yelp. Yes, you have to pay a little bit for marketing, but it's powerful. To this day, Yelp is one of the best ROIs that we get, still to this day. You can have Thumbtack. You want to have these days to create a social media page, right? On Instagram is free. It's free. You can just use your iPhone, and when you have that, it's already giving you advantage against someone that doesn't have that. So it's common sense, common things. It's and also, for example, when you're building a fence, put a banner outside or a flag that, hey, your company is working. We have constantly, people are calling us, we're getting jobs because they see our banner. Or if you build a fence, put a plate with your company. You know how many thousands of dollars of jobs, we're getting just because they saw our plate? How much is that plate cost? 10 cents? 50 cents? It's going to bring us over 100,000. It's a low-hanging fruit. And these simple things that people are missing, and they just think there's this magic trick. I will hire this company, and they're going to solve all my problems. That's a lie. Make sure that you're doing fundamental things first, which all you need is energy. Yeah.
What do you think is the problem with entrepreneurs that are missing the low-hanging fruit? Like a lot of these guys who don't even have Google My Business, or they're trying to just pay a marketing company $5 or $10K a month.
Yeah.
Hey, solve my problems, but
Yes.
they don't have Google My Business. What do you think?
I think their problem is, Joseph, they're too much in the business. They're actually doing the work. For example, they're laying tile, or they're doing siding. They're always thinking about how do I buy the material, how do I answer the customer email, how do I get the invoice. Do you understand? They're constantly in the business, so they don't really get around. They don't even. So some of them, I think, probably don't even listen to podcasts. But that's like low level. For example, if you don't have a business but you want to have a business, start listening to podcasts. Start listening to books. There's all these conferences that are catered for your growth. If you just go to that conference and use, those companies, you will grow. So I think number one is these guys, they don't educate themselves. They don't read books. They don't listen to podcasts. They don't reach out and ask for help. They're prideful. They think, I already know everything at 1 million. I'm so smart. I'm the biggest thing here. And we're going to do, with God's help, over 12 million this year. Having said that, this Friday, tomorrow, I'm going to a fence company. They're doing much less than me, but I'm going there to learn. I want to bounce my ideas from them. I want to hear what they think. I'm constantly going to conferences. I have a coach. I'm asking, I reach out because I'm hungry and humble, because I want to know, I'm learning. So that's the problem. The root is those guys are not self-educating.
So podcasts, conferences, mentorship,
Yes.
going to other businesses and learning from them, even if they're smaller than you.
Yes.
These are all things that they're missing. And they're in the business because they can't let go of control,
Yes.
meaning it's more of like probably ego thing.
Yeah, I think it's ego, ignorance. So yeah, number one thing is, if you're in the business, start listening, educating yourself. And then slowly start implementing low-hanging fruit, because that low-hanging fruit can help you get extra jobs that you can hire people out so you can get out of operations.
Well, when did you started getting customers, you started getting big, on Yelp. Tell me a little bit more about when were you able to start giving control of a company to people? Like, when did you start hiring your first employees? Mm-hmm. When did you start hiring your first foreman? What did that look like?
So the cool thing is, in the fencing industry, I had people come from Ukraine, and they needed work, Mm-hmm. So I would bless them with work, and that was big help in the beginning. And I remember how my first official worker was also, his name was Igor. Right now I think he's driving trucks. Awesome guy. And but also with me, I remember how my friend told me, Igor, if you get one crew going, start a second crew so you can earn more money. But I was thinking like, hey, why would I want to go back to physical work? So I was never go back. Once I got out of physical, I never went back, because I'm like, hey, I rather hire another crew and get out of business. So I wasn't greedy. Do you understand? Some people, they're greedy. They're like, hey, I'm going to put one crew here and I'm going to work with the second crew, so we're going to earn more money. I didn't do that way. If I had one crew, I didn't work. I tried to hire another crew. So I wasn't in the physical. I wasn't in the business. I always tried to get out of the work whenever I had the chance.
That's how you were able to get successful, because you tried to delegate.
Yes, as soon as I had a chance to get out, I delegated.
Okay. I love hearing about your journey. A lot of value. I want to know, right now there's this big thing about like, know your why, have a vision. You're a visionary, so you know this well. Have a vision. When you started your company, how important was it having like a value proposition? Because I know if you go to any business, like if you're meeting business meetings, usually they talk about in the beginning, what's your value proposition, right? When you're, let's say for a service-based business, what should their value proposition be? What's most important? Is it like having a vision first and then just going? Or like, what do you recommend for, like, let's say there's a couple business partners, they're, building a business and it's service-based. They're $1 million a year, but they're struggling to, I don't know, keep on going. I mean, should they work on their vision? What should be the most important thing for them to scale their business, to grow? Like, should they have a big vision? What do you recommend?
That's a really interesting question. Honestly, when I started, I just had a vision to work for myself.
Okay.
I had a very, very small ceiling, very small. I honestly, in the beginning, I remember how my friend Nick was like, Igor, this guy Peter, he already has two crews, and they're doing siding. And I'm like, I remember how I was thinking, how can you have two crews working for you? I'm like, that's, because I remember I only had like one crew, and I was just, for me, it was so hard, I remember how I delivered material to them, and I couldn't fathom that. So my mentality was very, very small. But what happens is when you meet other people, so when I met Tommy Mello, my mindset changed. Another big thing is, I remember how I was driving with my wife, and I told her, hey, I want to support 1,000 missionaries. So my main goal is I want to be a blessing to God's kingdom. So going off that, I need to make a lot of money. So now my vision grows. But it's true that who you hang out with is who you become. So when I went to Tommy Mello's shop tour, when I went to his conference, my mindset shifted. I'm like, hey, I need to think bigger. And I remember how I met with Rick Cook. He's the owner of All City Fence, the biggest fence company here in Seattle. I think last year they made like 17 million revenue. So I told him, hey, I want to go nationwide. He's like, Igor, what are you doing? No, like, do locally, So, and again, I mean, he's awesome, he's good, but this is his mindset. But when you go and talk to people like Tommy Mello and other people that go nationwide, you're like, whoa. I mean, if he can do it, I can do it. I mean, and your mind shifts. So you said, what's most important, vision? It's very important to have vision, but in the beginning, if you don't have vision, it's okay. Even if your vision is just to work for yourself, it's a process. Even if you start that and you graduate to that, that's already growth. And there you can, when you start meeting other people, your vision can shift, it can change. Sometimes my problem is, even right now, I remember how I was like, oh guys, we're gonna go roofing, we're gonna do siding, we're gonna do everything, let's go. And then I went to the store, I went to Ohio, Pennsylvania, and New York, and I was visiting companies, and everyone told me, Igor, stay focused, do one thing. And I'm like, hey guys, we're just doing fencing. Because we're doing deck right now, and I'm like, that might not be what I want. I want to do less is more. I just want to do fencing. I want to do one thing. So, and it's okay, your vision can, sometimes you can go sideways, and it's okay, we're human beings. But it's crazy, when I tell my guys, they get sidetracked, and I'm like, guys, I'm sorry, we're doing this one thing. So vision is very powerful, because the reason why I hired my CTO, and this guy is smart, he has computer science, and the reason why I can pull other guys right now, because I have a vision. I sell the vision. I'm like, guys, look, this is the vision, this is where we're going. You want to join us? Do you understand? So to build a big company without vision, it's impossible. If you're not going to cast vision, cast where we're going, where are we going? What are we doing? When you say, hey, we're going to go to Oregon, we're going to go to Texas, we're going to go to Florida. Man, it's gonna be on video. If God will bless us, you know, if God's gonna keep, because if God will open doors for us, if He will bless us, we're gonna do this and this. But having said that, people want to be part of something exciting. They don't want to be. Just let me tell you something. Right now, I was driving and I got a text message from our new sales guy, and he said, "Igor, this customer from 6 years ago, he remembers how you and your dad were building his fence, and he's doing his estimate for him. He wanted to give me a shout out." So I called Elijah, and Elijah was like, "Yeah, I already sold 2 jobs. He just started it with us, you know, Elijah." And I'm so excited. I'm so happy for him. Do you understand? When your company is growing, there's new blood, you're hiring new people, and you're training them, and they're succeeding, they're growing. Everybody gets excited, it gets fun. But when a company is stale, you're not hiring anybody, nobody's being promoted, it's dying. But when you come to Cool Cat Fence, it's like a party, especially in the sales meeting, you know? It's like a celebration. I'm like, man, I should be paying for this, and I'm getting paid. It's so fun, people are excited, they're growing, there's a vision, and they see the results. It's not a burden. So much people go to work and they're like, it's a drag for them. They're having a hard time. For us, it's beautiful. It's not easy for the installers, but look at Tony. We just hired Tony as a salesperson. He was a helper for 2.5 years and a foreman for 1.5 years. And now he finally became a salesperson. So in our company, you have a chance to grow. You can become a helper, you can become a foreman, you can become a sales. Our CEO, he was a helper, making $16 an hour. Now he's a CEO. So it's really awesome when your company is growing. There's this vibration, good energy, positivity, life.
Mm-hmm. So talk more about this positivity, this life. How do you look for, let's say, young entrepreneurs in their businesses? They want to find good talent. You know, what should they look for when they're looking for talent?
The way I see it is, for example, how I hired Andre. We had this guy, Andre, when I hired him, I would say 3 years ago, as a helper. So when you meet a person and they're smiling, and you can feel their energy, you can feel their vibe, you can feel if he was just so free, so positive. And I remember I hired Andres. He was a helper, then he became a foreman, then he became a salesperson. Now he opened up his own company. Right here in Seattle, he has another fence company. He's doing great. Andre, if you're watching this, I'm proud of you, brother. You're my friend, and I'm rooting for you. You're amazing. He has one of the best customer experience skills ever. His smile was amazing. He was truly serving the customers. And I believe that if you hire, I mean, people can have a bad day when they do interview, but I just noticed when you hire happy people, they're just pleasant. You know, they have soft skills. Most likely, they're going to be good workers. When you have happy workers equals happy customers. If you hire workers that are depressed, they're just always, I don't want to use that word, but always complaining, you know, always whining. It's the customer's fault, it's her fault, it's that fault. You know what? Goodbye. I mean, those people usually don't stick around in my company. I love people that push each other up, that take ownership, and don't blame, whine, and complain. But let's be solution-oriented. How can we solve this? Your company is only as good as your weakest link in the company, and people are everything. You can have the best CRM processes, but if you have wrong people, it's not going to work. You have to have right people. You have to have, that's number one. People is everything.
Well, would you say with people, like I guess, is it year 7 or 8 of the company?
Say what?
What year, how
right
long?
Now, it's already, we opened in 2016, so today's what, 24?
Yeah, so like 8 years?
Probably going into 9th, I think, already.
9 years?
Yeah, it's been a while.
So you started, first few years, you're hiring people, right? Now you're saying positive people. In the beginning,
yes.
Did you see a lot of more negative people when you were hiring them?
Yeah. Okay. Look, guys, are you kidding me? Look, I remember I had one crew. It was one foreman, and he actually found his helper. Man, I can't remember his name right now. But I remember how they were working in the middle of the project, and they just quit on me.
On the project?
On the project. They left. I came over by myself. And I had to finish the whole job by myself. By myself. I didn't have a helper. And I just stood back. It was raining, it was wet, but I worked and I finished the project and the customer paid for it. I mean, I went through some problems, yes, some hardships.
And that was and you kind of learned from that it was kind of...
And you know what happened?
Yeah.
This person, about half a year later, he called me to ask me, hey, give me another chance. I told him no. And it was the right thing to do. It was just, when a person just does like that, really, really, at least it would be much better if he would have finished the project, right? They say, hey, Igor, listen, something came up. It's not gonna work out. I'm gonna go ahead and finish the job. But when a person does it like that, you know what I noticed? That people, if they show certain bad behavior, and they say, hey, Igor, this is just a one time. No, it's not one time. It's most likely that's gonna repeat again. So, do I give second chances? Yes, to some people. But sometimes the best thing to do is not to hire that person again.
Okay. So be wise about it. Don't just be super nice, like, hey, yeah, of course. If they already screwed you over badly.
Yes. It was painful. I was by myself. There's nobody, no helper, no nothing. But it was part of the journey. So it wasn't all roses and sunshine and red carpet. It was, you went through some ups and downs. And especially, my journey was nothing special until when God spoke to me, Igor, you're doing fences, continue to do fences. That's after that in 2020, that's when I started growing, like seriously.
So 4 years into the business, what would you say roughly, so when God spoke to you and you had that breakthrough, right? That breakthrough in business, things started moving. What were you, if you don't mind sharing, what were you doing year 4 in like revenue?
So in 2019, right before when God spoke 2020, so I can't know exactly, but I'm just thinking maybe 1 million or 2. Probably 1 million. I can't remember, or 1,600,000 or something.
Was it hard to scale at the time? Were you trying to grow and it just wasn't working? Or?
The problem back then was I was living in apartments and I had either 1 or 2 trucks and they were parked in the
driveway,
in the apartments, the parking lot. So that's all I had. Do you understand?
At 1.6 million, you didn't have an office, you didn't have anything?
That wasn't 6 million. It was like
1.6 million.
1.6 or 900,000. I can't remember.
So
it was nothing special. It was nothing special. So that's why I think back then my brother was already doing part-time estimates, and my friend, he was doing also part-time estimates. I think I already had a couple crews, either 2 or 3. But the game changer, so after God told me I go do fences, the key change was when I rented land. I had my own land for business. When I bought a forklift and I started delivering material to me. Do you understand? That was a game changer because before that, our guys would look for material. They would go to Home Depot, they go Mill Island, Tacoma, and sometimes for like 3 hours later looking for material, like, Igor, I'm going home. So having material in one spot, you come in, pack up and go to work right away to the customer's house, saved so much more time. We became so much more efficient. That was a game changer. And that was huge. That was huge. And hiring a full-time estimator, that was, and getting out of the sales process is huge. I see a lot of problems why people can't scale a lot is they're in the business. They're always in the business. Do you understand, Joseph, how much time it takes from you when you do an estimate and then you're going back and forth with the customer and then you win the job, you have to make sure you're supervising and they're calling you, and then after you're done, they're still calling you again. So you're in the business, you're stuck in the day-to-day processes. So when I got out of doing estimates was huge, just monumental.
Sounds like your biggest recommendation for a service-based business or any business that wants to grow is you just got to get out of the business.
Get out of the day-to-day tasks. So work on the business. What does working on the business means? Right. doing marketing, making sure that leads are coming in, making sure that you're hiring right people. So basically, do you understand? So working on the business is being strategic, is doing things for the future. While working in the business, you're doing what's right now, you're not being strategic. So that's powerful.
Well, what would you say? I mean, it sounds like you had a couple breakthroughs. So one breakthrough was when God spoke to you about doing fencing, and you're
The
like,
biggest
I'm
one.
all
The
that's
biggest one. Do you know why? Because before God spoke to me, I almost did a classical mistake that a lot of Slack people do. When your friend over here, Sergey or Victor, does 4 times more than you, you're like, hey, am I in the right business?
They say no.
So I remember how my friend Gabriel, he was in water restoration, and he told me how much he made. It was like at least 4 times more than I did. Yeah. I'm like, what am I doing here digging holes? I'm like, hey, Gabriel, can I be your helper? I was about to go work with him. And I also, yes, and I also had thoughts, you know what, I'm going to start, my uncles do siding. I'm about to start selling siding jobs, and then I will give it to them. Joseph, honestly, I was sidetracked and just confused. But after God spoke to me, Igor, do fences, I was laser focused. The problem with a lot of entrepreneurs or the guys that don't grow, right here in the mindset, they're doing maybe tile. Hey, should I be doing roofing? Or should I be doing this? They're like always, man, if they would have just locked in on one thing and went all in, one thing. Forget about Sergey or Victor. Go all in what you're doing right now, That's the problem. So when you focus on one thing, that's huge. There's so much power in focus. If you do one thing, even if you grab a hammer and you start hitting in one direction, a huge rock, it will break if you keep hitting in one direction. But if you're just all over the place, nothing. There's power in focus.
I love that answer. Focus and just do one thing. Because you're already around a million, and you're still thinking about switching. Okay, so it's a temptation.
Yeah, yes.
It's a temptation always.
Brother, even right now, when I saw, how much roofers, average roof is like 30,000. Mm-hmm. My average ticket right now is 8,000 for fence. I'm like, man, that's more. Even right now, I get sidetracked. Still. And I'm like, when I go back to fences, I'm like, Igor, are you kidding me? Your business already doing so much. Yeah. Why would you start something new when you already put 8 years? You already have the momentum going for you. If you keep pushing it again, you will have way more ROI on this than building something from scratch over here. So 100%. We're human beings, and it's okay to get sidetracked, but very important to get back and get focused. If you stay focused on one thing long enough, beautiful things can happen.
Okay, let's say there's entrepreneurs, they're staying focused, they're working on their mindset, they're starting to get out of the daily grind of the business.
Yes.
Right? And all of a sudden, they start hiring those like key players to kind of replace them in places where, like, let's say helpers or fencers, right? Mm-hmm. So now they can start working on the marketing and all the branding and all that. What would you talk about? Can you talk a little bit about like systems? What does systems look like in your business? Mm-hmm. When did you start using systems, and what would you recommend for systems?
So I recommend to get a CRM system. If you can get Service Titan, because it's a very difficult, complicated system, get House Call Pro. I think it's second best. It's much less expensive. So the thing is, before I had a head of our sales guy, whenever we used Excel sheets. So whenever a customer called in, we would just get their name, get their phone number, and put it in an Excel sheet. And then our main salesperson would come in, and he would write his name on the ones that he chose to do, and then he would put Eddie's name, and another name. And then we would call him and say, hey, can we come out for an estimate tomorrow? So it was just like, so now you don't want your jobs to be in control of your guys' emotion. Now what happens when customer calls in? We schedule the job on the spot. We don't ask our sales, hey, can you do it this week or this day? No, we're scheduling for you. We're controlling the thing, Because what if, so now we schedule for them. We schedule for them. So now having a Service Titan in the system, it's just, it's so powerful. You have a transparent business. Because also when our guys send the estimates, it's within Service Titan. Because what if you hire a salesperson, you give him a job, and he goes and he wins and gives it to another contractor, makes money on the side. So what we have is we are eliminating all those things, or I won't say eliminating, we're lessening the chances of them stealing from you. It's our systems make our company transparent and accountable. You want to remove the human factor where you don't want that to be dependent on your sales guys. Oh, I feel good today, so I'm going to go and estimate. No. It's already scheduled. You already scheduled, and we know if he came there on time or not. So our CRM system shows when he left the house, when he came to the customer's house, how long was he there. We have the transparency. So I'm not here to micromanage. I'm here to hold our people accountable. Because people, human beings, if you don't hold them accountable, you're not going to get what you expect. You're only going to get what you inspect.
That's an amazing quote right there. I love that.
Yeah.
What you inspect, don't micromanage. I think this is a lot of value shared already. I want to kind of go into more, just maybe some more like quicker questions, kind of end it off. Just kind of stuff like, what's the best advice you've ever received? These kind of questions, just to see if we can get some value there as well. Like, I guess we'll start off. What's the best advice you've ever received?
Okay, so revenue is for vanity, and profits is for sanity. So in business, the number one thing is the bottom line. How much profit are you making at the end of the day? So I understand there's times when you invest as a company, you're all about investing, but there comes a time where if you're not making profit, what's the point of having business?
There's no point.
So number one reason in business is to make profit.
Okay, best advice. What's one thing you wish you knew before starting your business?
I wish I would have started spending more money on marketing earlier. Yes, like I see all the big business people that became really big, all of them, without exception, pay a lot of money on marketing. Because these days, it's all about being known. You might be the best at what you do, but if people don't know about you, then it doesn't matter. For example, yesterday, I went to visit our crew, and then I knocked at the door, asked the customer, "How did you hear about us?" And he says, "Hey, I saw your billboard." Seeing is believing. So when people see us first, that means it goes into their mind. We're already in their mind. So it's powerful. Like you want to be in people's minds. That's why marketing is so powerful. And all the business people that I follow, all of them without exception, spending big money on marketing because it works. It works.
Okay. How much would you recommend, like a percentage of, like, let's say they're a smaller company, what percentage should they be looking at to spend on marketing, like of their revenue?
5% minimum, but if you want to be aggressive, you can go up to 10. If you want to grow.
10% is growth.
10% is like you want to be aggressive. You're like, hey, I'm here to grow.
Do you have a recommendation on how they should allocate it? Like, because I know you talked about, like, I mean, sure, Google ads, or what would you recommend for allocation?
So guys, look, about Google ads. Google is very powerful. I would say overall, probably Google is the biggest chunk of our customers overall. If you consider Google My Business, Google Organic, Google Guaranteed, even the website, how they find the website on Google. Having said that, Google is very expensive. It's a red ocean. There's every other fence company or tile or everyone's there. That's why we found Yelp. For us, Yelp is huge. Also, we are big on customer service. Last year, we got, if I'm not mistaken, about $1.5 million just from combination of return customers and referrals.
Wow.
Great customer experience. So if you have bad customer experience, you have to always increase your budget for marketing. So we're great about customer experience. Okay. But you have to find your niche. But I still think you have to be in Google. You have to pay for Google ads. It's a good thing to do. Because even if you have bad ROI in Google ads, but people are seeing you. Do you understand that? People are seeing you. So that's huge. So customers are aware of you. They know you.
Okay. Brand awareness is very big. What's your, this is more like a personal question, what's your favorite part of being an entrepreneur?
My favorite part of being an entrepreneur is I can travel to, basically right now I can go to anywhere in the world. Number two, because of this business, God's given me an opportunity to bless missionaries and other people. And number three, it gives me an opportunity to go to business conferences and have coaches. I mean, right now, coaches. And the money, it gives you opportunities. You get to talk to some, and you have to pay money. A lot of these, you pay money to get connections, and then later you're saying, why would I pay money? But paying money gives you an opportunity to go even higher. And number four, it's a joy to watch people within your company, Joseph. We're helpers now, they're foremen, salespeople, you know, they're growing and they're buying houses, you know, they're growing, they're expanding. It's my biggest joy. I love people. It's, you know what, my business, it's a dream. I think it's an American dream. It's just amazing opportunities, guys. I'm thankful to God. This is unbelievable. Sometimes you're thinking you can go out of business. It's like, you know, one day you think you can go out of business, one day you're top of the world. But having said that, this is the best job, or I won't say it's a job, lifestyle that I ever had. It's a lifestyle.
Do you feel like, you just talked about like one day you feel like the business is growing, one day that you feel like the business is failing.
Yes.
At $10 million a year or 11 million, 12, let's say $12 million a year, do you still feel like sometimes like, oh man, the business could still fail?
Yes. I mean, yes, with the uncertainty in the world, with, it's human nature. Like, it's no guarantee. Nothing's guaranteed. That's why you as a business owner, you should be getting the most money because you're carrying the risk because nothing's guaranteed. And if a person tells you that it's guaranteed, no, it's not.
That's good. That's a good piece of advice. Yeah. Well, what's the fear at, like, let's say, you're pretty established at 10 million. I mean, you got systems, you got people, you got everything. What's the fear, like the economy or?
For example, we noticed that every time the stock market would fall, it would hinder our sales. And the stock market would rise, it would go up again. Yeah, I noticed that.
So it's still a fear of like if the stock market kind of collapses a little bit, then your business could really just, the profits would go away or less customers.
So right now we just hired 2 more sales guys, right? That's like, what if we don't have estimates for them? But I always run, even though there's some fear, but I run by faith. So you guys, if you heard that Monday, right? The stock markets fell pretty big. Yeah, pretty big. Having said that, our sales are down. They are. They're picking up right now. And I think that what's going to happen is people will understand life goes back to normal. You know, you still need a fence. So I believe we're going to bounce back up and keep going. But in business, Joseph, it is a lot faith. I hire for faith. I hire 2 guys because I believe we're going to get more estimates. Like, I go, what are you doing? It's already kind of end of the season. Like, why would you hire 2 more sales guys? You only had 4. I have faith. I'm gonna go for it. You know, just go for it. And I'm gonna take responsibility. If something doesn't go right, it's gonna be my fault. I can't blame anybody. I take ownership.
Do you take, because you said a lot of business is by faith. Do you rely on gut instinct, or like, would you say like God or?
Yes, I pray. It's instinct, but also data. You know, that's why I'm huge on data. I'm looking at the amount of leads coming in about our marketing, and it's also data. Data with faith and all together. But it's very important I'm a person, I would say my weakness is I am impulsive, very impulsive. But we do have data, and I'm huge on data. And is it 100% accurate? No, but we're constantly working to make sure our data gets better so we can make better decisions. But a lot about it is faith, especially when we rebranded. It was really hard.
That was a huge step of faith. Do you want some water? We're almost done. But
I have this.
Okay, perfect. We'll finish up here in a bit.
Yeah. Oh, please. Sorry, I'm like.
And then what always puts a little closer to you as well. But do you have a faith with data? Faith with data, right? Because
love that.
You still need faith, even though you have the data, because you don't know if next week the stock market is going to fall another 5%, right?
Yeah.
So faith with data is one thing you said. The next thing is, I guess, more of like a entrepreneurship thing. Tell me more about like your personal entrepreneurial life. Do you have any like hacks or for like time management, or when you were more in the business? Do you like?
So guys, look, about time, I mean, I do have a personal assistant. So sometimes I just give that person work and they do it to save my time, because my time is valuable. My hour costs a lot of money. So if I can hire a person that's, let's say, 1/10 or 1/20th of my hour, you know. So basically, I'm in that season that I don't have to go to a shop or office. You know, everything's ran basically without me. Having said that, I believe I'm the most influential person in our company, so I choose to go visit our crews, to talk to them. I want to go to our office and you know, talk to them, how everything going, because I have a vision. And I want to. It's like what Elon Musk is. You know, he goes to his crews and he goes into details. He asks questions. That's why I believe he's so successful, because he has the most impact out of anybody. He goes into details. Because I can just say, hey, we just wing it, let's go run it, it's running. But I want to grow. I want to grow, and I want to make sure that it's being done. So I go back to the office. Right now after this, I'm going to the office. I'm excited.
Do you have any like, because I know being a business owner, it can be very stressful. A lot of times could be, you know, when you're stressed out, you start eating more unhealthy. You might not be working out as much, especially if you're very overwhelmed with the business.
Yeah.
Do you have any like biohacks or like anything that you've done of like, hey, I work out early in the morning? Is there?
So here's what happens. So I really like that before I go to the office that I work out. I mean, exercise. I don't know if you guys heard of Better Me app. It's an app where it's like exercise. But I really like to exercise first and read a book, eat a healthy breakfast, take my vitamins.
Ooh, vitamins.
Yes, vitamin. I noticed that when I take vitamins, I feel a lot better.
Recommendations on vitamins?
Yes, I take vitamin C, zinc, vitamin D. Yeah, those are the three main ones that I take.
They make you feel better.
Yes, yes, 100%. I see the difference when I don't take them. And obviously, I'm big on tea, green tea, coffee, also. So, but I noticed that also I have to get my sleep, Joseph. When I don't get my sleep, and coming cranky to the office, ain't nothing good for anybody. When I come in happy, joyful, guys, I'm excited about our future. It gets everybody on fire. Because if I come to the office, I'm not there for too long, maybe an hour or two. So if I do come that little span of time, I better be in the best possible mindset. So because they're all looking to me. If I'm excited, if I believe in the future, they believe it. Do you understand? So I have a big responsibility. And if I don't work out, I feel like I'm losing the edge. There's something about physical workout. When you physically work out, your blood starts moving, oxygen level goes up, you feel so much better. And I'm a person that, unfortunately, I can't hide my feelings. I don't have a poker face. I carry it all my sleeves, you know. I can't, you know, it's who I am, so.
Everybody in the office knows when you didn't have a good night's rest, basically.
Yeah, or when I'm in a bad mood, when I'm cranky, So that's huge. My morning ritual is huge. My ideal ritual morning is when I pray, read the Word of God, drink a glass of water, and then I drink, it's like this green smoothie, and then I work out, and then I read book. So, you know, you do spiritual, physical, and mental for your soul. And then, you know, you fed yourself, and then you go to your office, and then you bless people. You encourage them. You understand that? You want to commend, you always want to uplift people. You want to say, hey, you guys are doing, if you put people down, like who's want to work for you, you know? I'm one of my biggest things when I do my business, I'm a cheerleader. I come in, I'm rooting for you. I believe in you. I'm so thankful for you. You know, all I'm doing is pushing people up. most of the times. There's times when I do bring the hammer, but most of the, like 90% of the time, I'm believing, I'm happy, I'm thankful.
It sounds like the morning routine as well and getting your sleep is not only for yourself, but also to bless others.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Oh, yes. You can't, that's why the Bible says, love as you love yourself. So if you don't love yourself, how are you going to love anybody else? It's so true that those people that are very negative is because their inner world is negative. They feel bad here, and that's why they bring it outside.
They project it out.
Oh, that's the better word.
Yeah.
Project it, yes.
That's I see that very commonly. I have these conversations with people where I'm like, I actually was talking with somebody the other day, and I was like, hey, you should love yourself.
Yes.
I think in the Christian world today, people are like, oh, you can't love yourself because there's that verse that says in the end times, people will be lovers of self. And so a lot of Christians these days think, oh, I have to dislike me and I have to serve others. But it's they live a very negative life because they don't like themselves, and they can't project that love, they project the negativity.
Man, that's a good point.
Yeah.
That's a good point. But yeah, working out is huge, especially I don't work physically. So when I work out, man, it just, yeah.
So love yourself and then it overflows. Work
Yes.
out, it's going to overflow.
Yes.
Get good rest, it's going to overflow. Take your vitamins, it's going to overflow.
Yes, you're doing this not only for you, but for your family. I have 2 kids, for my wife, and for my business. It's powerful.
That's beautiful. I feel like I kind of just had a perspective shift a little bit there.
Yeah.
I want to talk about kind of ending the podcast. Let's just do a couple last questions. What are some of your favorite books or top books you'd recommend to entrepreneurs?
So the number 1 book that I would recommend is How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. Why? Because number 1 key or criteria to be successful is the ability to work with people, working with human nature. And that book maybe defines in the easiest, best way how to work with human nature. So number 1, How to Win Friends and Influence People. Number 2, I would recommend book by Jim Collins, From Good to Great. It's a very great book, shows how companies became great. And a very powerful lesson from that book is you need to let go of the wrong people from the bus, put the right people on the bus, and then figure out which seats should you put them. It's very powerful. I use this from this book a lot. Also, another book that I highly recommend is 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. And I still use some terms from that book, like being proactive, synergy, and win-win. Like I always talk about win-win. Like, hey, for this to work, it has to be win-win. You have to win and I win. If you win and I lose, it's not going to work out. But if you win and I win, we can do this.
Awesome. Last question for you, Igor.
Yes.
Thank you for doing this podcast and providing all the value you have. What would you recommend? Like you meet a lot of entrepreneurs, I'm sure. In your
Yes.
church, different types of levels of entrepreneurs, high level. From what you've been meeting with people in the past like year, what's like the biggest advice that you would give to people that you hear like commonly, things that people struggle with?
What would you advise entrepreneurs out there?
I think the number 1 advice that I want to give to our viewers, listeners, is who you hang out with is who you become. It's 100% truth. If you hang out with other business people that are doing 300,000 or less, or you're most likely going to do the same. If you start hanging out with people that are like above you, you're gonna catch things subconsciously, and you're gonna start implementing. Because it's what happens to me. Like I visited a shop, and they're saying they're gonna do 50 million this year. And I saw how they're working. I'm catching things. I'm like, I get fired up. I'm like, okay, let's go. I'm learning. I'm constantly. So you become who you hang out with. It's so powerful. Like the best thing that if you want to grow, start hanging out, start calling, asking questions with people that are doing more money than you.
Okay. Amazing.
That's huge. That's huge.
I'm gonna take that advice. I think a couple things that I've learned from you is, and it's actually related. What I've personally kind of seen from you, and I'm like, this actually makes sense for me. Is conferences to go meet more people in your industry.
Yes.
You meet those people who are higher up. You learn from them, right? And then also locally, if you have businesses that are better than you, call up the owners, right?
Yes. That's so powerful. Oh man, I need to do that locally more locally. And tomorrow I'm going to Oregon.
Oregon?
Yeah.
For a fencing company.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, blessings on that.
And you know why? I didn't even know about them.
Uh-huh.
What happened is they saw me on social media and reached out to me.
Oh, that's cool.
That's why social media is so powerful, because you have to grow your network, who you hang out with. Because, guys, it's so powerful because you can talk to someone that has their mindset is like on a whole nother level. They can give you one advice that can help you get to the whole nother level. One advice, and you know, and you will take it from them because you know they're doing it. Because sometimes you have friends, smart friends, giving you advice that are not non-business. You know, I mean, their advice is the best thing since sliced bread, but you don't respect that. You don't take it from them because they don't have a business. They never build anything. It's you only want to take advice from people that already done it.
In your industry.
In your industry, yes.
Okay. Awesome. Well, thank you for all the advice. Thank you for being on the podcast. I'm excited to get a lot of content out of this. Igor, blessings
Thank you.
on the day.
Appreciate it.
And have fun.